Star Wars only. I don't know what the fuck your problem is.
So about a week ago, I made a video talking about how George Lucas allowed a rare Star Wars screening for the first time in 20 years. He showed A New Hope in its theatrical version from 1977. Everything but the opening crawl was the exact same. The opening crawl was changed from Star Wars to A New Hope. But everything else was the exact same. Han shot first. There wasn't any special edition stuff. Everything was perfect, basically. And the two questions everyone had after this was, are we going to get an unaltered version of the original trilogy released by Disney? 4K, something like that, Blu-ray, that would be amazing. But the question after that was, how does George Lucas still have a say in this? How does he still have control over Star Wars with Disney owning the franchise and buying it from him in 2012? Well, I did a lot of research. I stayed up late and I went through some of the old books that I had read on this stuff and about the history of Star Wars, how it was made. Looked through a lot of contracts and stuff, and it's been a long few days on finding out this information, but I have it all for you and I can kind of give you the entire story and just a quick little summary of everything. We're going to go from 1977 all the way to 2019. So we got a lot of ground to cover. Hold on tight, because here we go. In the 70s, when George was making Star Wars A New Hope, he didn't have all the money to fund the film, so he went to 20th Century Fox. He was able to provide a lot of money with American Graffiti, but they were able to provide the rest and have a deal with them. They had the distribution rights to Star Wars, but George had the sequel rights. So when it came to Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, 20th Century Fox was involved, but they didn't fund it as much as George Lucas did. It was George's film. It was his money. He had all the creative control like he wanted. He was a very smart man, I'm not going to lie. You jump 20 years into 1997, he goes back and he remasters the original trilogy, but he adds the special editions that a lot of fans did not like, and he claims that the negatives were damaged, and when he remastered them, you can't get the original trilogy anymore. The negatives are damaged beyond repair, and the special editions are the only way that Star Wars will live on, the original trilogy will live on. So we jump to 15 years later. George Lucas sells Lucasfilm to Disney. They own Star Wars now. The question is, do they own the distribution rights to Star Wars? No. George made a deal with Fox, 20th Century Fox, and they had the distribution rights for every single Star Wars film that George Lucas had made, including the prequels, including the original trilogy. And those rights, those remaining rights, would not be transferred to Disney until May of 2020. So they'd be transferred from Fox to Disney in 2020. That's when Disney would have complete control over all the films and could do the remasters that they want. They can go back to the negatives and remaster them and sell them in a 4K version. And it turns out, this is surprising news to me, Disney has a current 4K scan of the original trilogy, a revised version of it basically. It's the newest special edition, and it's not the original theatrical edition. So it looks like they may be releasing their own special edition, like a version of theirs, surprisingly. And this is from Disney's Director of Library Restoration and Preservation, Theo Gluck, said that there's a original cut negative for the film, but it only exists in its special edition configuration only. And Fox Senior Vice President of Library and Technical Services, Sean Belston, who was there at the same time and reporting on the same stuff, he had said that all the trims removed from the original cut negative in the 1990s to create the special editions, the cuts that they took from the original trilogy, still exist. So you have one Disney director saying that basically they've upscaled the original trilogy into a 4K version, but it's their own special edition version of the original trilogy. And the ones that we're looking for, the unaltered ones, they don't exist. That they're only in special edition form. But 2019 happens, and George Lucas allows a rare screening of Star Wars in its unaltered version on a theater, 35mm. Can we not take that version of it and make it into 4K? And that is a possibility, because Disney now owns 20th Century Fox. They have acquired 20th Century Fox. So now you would assume that Disney has all the rights to Star Wars, all the original trilogy, all the prequel trilogy. And you would be right. So the question is, how does George Lucas still have a say in this? How is he controlling this? Well, the answer is Kathleen Kennedy. She has said that she is honoring George Lucas in the way he did the films and honoring his decision on it. Basically, Lucasfilm and Disney could release the theatrical versions of Star Wars. They have the rights now. They bought 20th Century Fox. It was going to be delayed until 2020. They couldn't do the remasters until 2020, which is next year. But now that they have Fox, they had a 14-month advantage. They sped up the process by a year and 2 months, but they're still not doing it. Why? Because of George Lucas. They're honoring George Lucas's wishes. George Lucas is still a creative consultant on every single Star Wars movie. Believe it or not, that's part of the deal. He is allowed to be a creative consultant on all the Star Wars movies that Disney makes. So he still has some kind of influence. He still has not a lot of say, but they're going to honor what he says and what he wants. And Kathleen Kennedy has said herself that she is going to honor George Lucas on the way he wants the original trilogy to be remembered. And George wants the original trilogy to be remembered in its special edition form. And I think that's sad, but that's his choice, and Disney and Kathleen Kennedy are going to honor it. And hey, props to him for honoring the man's wishes. I'm surprised that he's still a creative consultant, he's still involved, and I'm surprised with all this information because what do you think about the Disney 4K version that they're probably going to release now that they own Fox? They can do it with every single Star Wars film now. And I was really surprised to find out they weren't going to get the rights to all the Star Wars films until 2020. 8 years after they bought the franchise. I mean, that's a long wait period and a long time to wait for remasters of even the prequel trilogy. And I don't know how they're going to remaster that. It's digital. It's not going to be true 4K. It's not going to be native 4K, I wouldn't think, like you could do with the negatives of the original trilogy. But I don't know. There's a lot of interesting stuff here. But yes, it seems like the biggest reason why George Lucas has a say in this is because they're simply honoring what he says. He simply says, and it is. He's simply saying, I don't want the original trilogy to be released in its unaltered state. And Disney says, all right, if that's the way you want it. Kathleen Kennedy's the one who is basically in charge of that stuff, and she's with it as well. She agrees with Lucas, and she's going to honor his wishes. And I think that's respectful. I disagree with Lucas on this, but I think it's respectful that they'll honor his wishes on that. But tell me your thoughts. What do you think about this? Are you surprised to hear that he still has some kind of say in that form? And what are your thoughts about Disney acquiring Fox and now being able to release their own 4K version of the original trilogy, their own special edition, basically? And when do you think that's going to happen? It wasn't going to happen until after 2020, but now it seems like it's a possibility in the near future. I think a great time frame would be 2021. I think 2021 would be a great time to release this, but I don't know. Tell me your thoughts below. What do you guys think about all this? Are you excited to see a possibility of a 4K version of the original trilogy, even if it's in special edition, even if it's from Disney? Tell me your thoughts below. I'm Star Wars Only. Hope you guys enjoy this little trip through time. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you all next time, and may the Force be with you always.